welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
I'm Todd Pleasant.
And I'm Brian Mix.
Special guest. Not so
Hey,
special
welcome,
because he's
Brian.
been on a bunch.
Great to be back. Miss you guys.
Next week, a very special guest, Val Kilmer.
That's right.
If he calls us back.
Brian,
We're
how do
still
you feel
trying
about
to make
Val
that
Kilmer?
happen.
Because you
So,
can come back
you know,
next week.
I've got two things on that. Two things. First of all, Barry, I can't believe you didn't include the Doors. I mean, how can you not include the Doors?
Yeah.
No, that's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And the tying in what we're talking about today, the movie that ends with the same song that For All Mankind ends with. You know what song? Everybody Wants to Rule the World is the end of For All Mankind and the end of Real Genius.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, that's
I think
right.
it's his best film. Yeah, I love Real Genius. Seen it many, many times.
All right. I know you must have seen Willow. Is it as bad as? Do you think
I don't
it's
know
terrible?
if it's bad or good. I haven't seen it.
I won't review it. Actually, I've downloaded all the movies and I'm gonna watch them all again before you guys do it next week.
Oh, dude, you need to come back.
But yeah, I saw Willow in the theater when it first came out, and that was the only time.
Me too. Oh, you've got to see it again. So good.
It's on my computer.
More
Okay,
on that
next week, everybody. So it's Willow, Tombstone. What's the other one?
Top Secret.
Top Secret.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the three Val Kilmer movies we're watching for next week. And listen to last week's if you didn't hear it. But not all of us have seen all of them. Barry's a fan of Willow. I'm a fan of Tombstone. Todd's a fan of Top
Real
Secret.
Genius.
So
Oh,
And
Top
Tombstone.
Secret.
we all haven't seen them. So
We've actually we have a friend who has props from Top Secret. So
Really?
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
We
Yes,
saw
we do.
those.
We do?
So
Yeah, in his
What
basement.
what is it?
the giant
Oh.
the giant eye from the magnifying glass. You know Top Secret, Brian?
I do. Again, saw it.
I haven't
once.
seen it, so I don't know.
So there's a shot of the
Peter Cushing.
Peter
right?
Cushing holding up the magnifying glass, and his eye is gigantic because it's behind a magnifying glass, and then he sets it down and his eye is still gigantic.
Oh,
And so we have our friend has that prosthetic.
wow.
So
Cool. Well, anyway, look forward to that next week. Hey, the situation we're in as of March 31st, 2020 is still going on. If you're not staying inside, you got to stay inside. There's people not doing the right thing, and they're just going to drag this thing out longer. So please, people. Hey, there's a big hospital ship that came in. Let's all to help save people
I
from
was
dying.
looking at that.
Let's
like-
all go gather and look at it. Like
I was like, did they want to get on? What was the thing here?
it just
Yeah.
doesn't end. The stupidity.
I was
doesn't
reading an
end.
article about a town in New Jersey where the police have been trying to break up these groups of people hanging out on the lawn, and there's like 30 and 40 of them, and they're arguing with the police. It's like insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So just do the right thing. We all need to get through this. Just stay inside. Everyone in the whole country stayed inside for 2 weeks. We say this, we get through this quicker, and people aren't doing the right thing. So do the right thing. Be safe, everybody.
And I have news for anybody. Not that there's a single person that listens to this show that's under the age of like 40, but if you're 20 to 40 something, don't think that you can't get this, because that's like I keep hearing over and over. It's just insane.
Nope.
So like this is affecting everybody.
A friend of ours, husband who was 42 with no underlying conditions died from this.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. As I told
Yeah.
you guys, our next door neighbor is positive right now. So it's
That's close.
it's coming.
You want to know something? I know you know, but everyone's next door neighbor is positive. We just don't know it. So
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, no, you're right.
this is not an old, infirmed people's situation. It is everybody. So just please.
Even if you think you're young and invincible, save your parents and save your grandparents.
Exactly.
You could have it and not know it and give it to them.
There was something on the news, like, who was saying? I don't remember. Like, the greatest generation who lived through World War II, sacrificed everything, is going to die because you need to go see your jerk-off friend at the basketball court.
That was me
Don't
3
do it.
episode ago. But
No,
yes.
that was someone yesterday, too.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's again, and it's sorry to belabor this point, but we're doing this for history. because in the future, when people are listening to this podcast, we're helping them understand. And also, if there's just really like one person left, like Burgess Meredith, and you get to, from the Twilight Zone, and you get to the point where you're listening to this, we want you to know why. So
He broke his glasses, so all I can do is listen to podcasts.
exactly.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is true. But he doesn't know what they're called because he can't read.
That's why he listens to ours first.
This one's called the Regular Joe's Podcast.
You could have gone with Serial or something big, but no, he was listening to us.
Nope.
There you
He
go.
landed on us.
You don't know. Never know. All right, let's go random.
Okay.
Barry, what do you got? That's not
I just
blatant
feel like-
random.
No. I just feel like this is the same story with different words in it every week. But Sony has now pushed all summer movies into 2021.
Yeah.
So
they
Morbius, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Uncharted, and Peter Rabbit 2. They're not even saying later this year, 2021.
They did do. Wow, that's
That
interesting.
was
That's
announced
interesting.
today. Yeah.
I did not
So-
know that. I knew some people were, but I didn't know they're pushing everything back a whole year.
Yeah, I
They
think
are
that's
pushing it
probably
back.
both release and production issues, because once they back these things up, all that stuff is booked. So you can't say, oh, we're just going to wait a month or 2 months and resume work. The studios are booked, the editors are booked, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a mess putting that stuff back on schedule.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. Todd, what do you got?
Okay. Ryan Gosling, who some of you know as Neil Armstrong in The First Man, is going to play an astronaut again in a movie called, let's see
Logan's
here.
Run.
The Hail Mary. And here's the interesting part. He will play a solitary astronaut in a spaceship trying to save Earth. Okay. Based on the upcoming novel by Andy Weir.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So they
So
are
that's gonna
making
make it
a
to the
movie
screen.
based on Andy Weir's next book before Andy Weir's next book is released.
So that's going to make it to the screen before Artemis, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Are they filming that or doing that or?
I had heard that it was optioned and somebody bought it.
It was
but I don't
optioned.
know.
Yep.
I thought that was being made, but I don't know. There's probably a way to check that. I'll do that while we're going. Brian,
Yep.
do you want to go with some random?
Yeah, just kind of weaving in with what we're talking about today. Brent Spiner says he's ready to do more Star Trek
Yes.
with a condition.
Just not Data.
It's not
as
Data. Yeah.
It's great.
And he doesn't think that he thinks he's too old to play Data, but with all the great de-aging stuff they have now, there's no reason why he couldn't
Yeah.
keep playing.
It's probably
Data.
But
more
just
than
Too
think
bad they
that
didn't
he's
use it on
been
that movie.
every member of Dr. Seuss's
that's right.
family at this point. So,
Yeah.
He could just keep this going.
But he probably just doesn't want to do the makeup and the contact lenses anymore.
Yeah, I also think I think there was good. We'll talk about this, but I think there was good closure.
If you were going to do, they don't very often do real people as mocap because they look, the uncanny valley. But Data would be a good one to do as pure mocap.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
yes.
that's true.
When you look at like the level that Marvel's done with it, Marvel's done some great stuff. And like I always use the Kurt Russell example, de-aging Kurt Russell for Guardians 2. They could totally do that and just take him back. I think it would be it could work. We'll see. Maybe flashbacks and stuff. So I also imagine that's not cheap. So
Yeah.
Artemis is on the schedule for February 2021.
So sometime in 2023.
Which means that they were probably filming it.
Unless they fire those guys. It's the dudes who were doing Solo, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Phil Lord and someone.
Yeah.
Lord and Miller, yeah.
They seem like
Have you read the
douchebags.
book?
Yes.
Yes.
I like the book. I didn't have a problem with the book.
I did not
it's
like the book.
It was
I
Martian.
I like
was
the
all
book,
right,
but
but it
it's
was no
certainly no Martian.
It's like the Da
okay,
Vinci
it's
Code.
no
There's-
Martian,
there's
but
no
the thing is-
following it up.
I mean, my thing. We've all read the book, right?
Mhm.
And everyone listening, you've had plenty of time to read the book. Okay. This woman screws things up pretty bad. Okay. And then at the end, she just gets like a total pass for it. And they're like, oh yeah, you just nearly killed everyone on the planet, but really no on the moon, but really no harm, no foul. So
she saved the day at the end.
She saved the day, but it was a situation she created. Okay.
The good bad guys is sometimes you go to a movie, you go, this is our hero. This is who I'm rooting for.
This is what I'm saying, and it's like, you know, if she's leaving in handcuffs at the end or something, and they're saying, well, you know, at least you saved us all. I could live with that, but the whole like, oh yeah, well, that was just another day.
It felt to me though like it was, you know, how do you follow up The Martian? So,
oh, no question, that is, yeah, no.
Dan Brown too. I mean, none of his books were anything like his first book.
Yeah, some of us might argue his first book wasn't like his first book, but yeah, it's. Yeah.
I find his view of religion perfectly accurate. Anyway, I have something. I just thought this was interesting. It's a little random. So the Russo brothers are producing a Netflix movie starring Chris Hemsworth that is directed by the guy, like the stunt coordinator for almost every Marvel movie. It's called Extraction. That seems like a good combination of a couple of people. Stunt coordinators sometimes turn out to be pretty good directors, I think, because they do a lot of second unit stuff.
Isn't one of the John Wick movies directed by a stunt? What was there was a recent one that was directed by a stunt coordinator. What was that?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, but
yeah, I thought it was one of the John Wick movies.
Yeah, so this guy actually, I think, started way back being Captain America's stunt double. He looks like a sort of Cap with a beard, and then he's directing this. So it'll be on. It's called Extraction. It'll be on Netflix April 24th. So,
cool.
Russo brothers have done no wrong yet. So even if they're just producing, I'd be interested in that.
So one other quick one. Something I just read just before we started recording, and it's a rumor, but Disney's apparently considering putting Black Widow and Mulan out direct to digital like soon. So my question is,
on Disney Plus or direct to digital pay-per-view digital?
I think it would be paid. It would be pay-per-view, and then it would definitely be paid, and it probably would be more than the $20 that the last bunch of those were. But here's my question: would you rather wait until the dust settles and go see it in the theater, or would you rather?
Tell you, you guys were talking about last week about how this could be the death of the comic book store. This could be the death of the movie theater.
I say we wait. I think we wait. You can't destroy that industry that way. I mean, they've got declining fortunes as it is. The smaller theaters have almost completely been gobbled up by the chains. On the comic book thing, like they're going ahead and they're still publishing digitally, and the rationale behind that is they perceive two different markets: your digital consumer and your in print consumer tend to be two different people to begin with, kind of as I speculated, but it will remain to see whether those people jump to the other side and whether they go back.
Movie theaters are exactly the same idiom in that you've got digital. Yeah. You're gonna have digital people, and then you're gonna have people want to go to the theater, and all the people who want to go to the theater are over 50, and the rent's a lot more in a theater than it is on a comic book store.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if people over 50 can keep them in business.
Yeah. I'm curious if, let's say, nobody puts out these movies, or at least the blockbusters, and people will be desperate to go to movies once we're allowed to. I wonder if it could have sort of a resurgence.
But I think that the problem is that there are now so many movies stacking up that they can't spread them out far enough and still get them out in the calendar year they want to get them out in. And they're probably looking at it as, Disney especially is bleeding money with their theme parks closed and desperately needs to get a cash infusion. And if they could put those movies out at $30 or $40 and, make some money rather than make no money, they might do it.
Yeah, that current crop of movies like The Invisible Man and what was it, The Hunt or whatever, those are 20 right now.
Yes. Yep.
What kind of numbers are those doing? Do you have any idea?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay.
I can't.
I was asking Todd, but whatever.
Right.
I want to keep the job I have.
I'm not gonna comment either.
I'll comment. I don't know how many. That's my comment. But geez, Mulan's what, a $250 million movie or something?
Yeah, Black Widow's got to be up there too. So
Yeah.
150, 200 million.
I'd see Mulan. I wouldn't watch Black Widow. So I don't know. That's tricky.
Yeah.
Wait and go to the movies, people. That's all I gotta say.
If they're given the chance, that's the thing. That Disney's going to be the one that decides, not the people.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You see it there. That's the only way you're going to be able to see it. So,
right.
And those are rentals, right? Those are not buying.
They would probably do them as rentals to start. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way they could make the kind of. I mean, Black Widow needs to do what, $600-700 million in the box office. They'll never do that kind of money.
No, but
what's a rental, and your whole family watches it for the one rental fee, right? Instead of $5-10 tickets.
Right, but that's why if they charge $30 or $40, but look, I have no idea, and I know that I sent you guys that article the other day. I mean, Disney. There's an article out there about Disney cutting, salaries of their top executives, and I look, the top guys can afford it.
Yeah.
That company. Whatever their business model is, and it's not just Disney, right? I mean, when you talk about Disney, you talk about Disney and ABC and ESPN. It's all one big company, but no sports happening right now. Nobody can go out.
No sports happening. The parks are closed.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
the things that Disney rakes cash in day in day out for.
3 months ago, we're saying like, oh my God, they got their hands in everything.
On the plus side, Disney Plus subscriptions are up.
Yeah.
If they only had an airline, then they'd really have the everything that's bad right
They
now.
do have cruises, though,
They
right?
do have cruises. Holy shit.
They do.
Cruises.
Yeah, those are grounded too. If Disney could only make ventilators.
Yeah, my wife and I were discussing that the day Disneyland reopens, will it be the most crowded day of the year or the least crowded day of the year? Because people are afraid of going back in a tight group.
Yeah.
It all depends when they open.
But think of the same thing with movie theaters. It's like, who's going to go back opening day? In my, as I always say, my sleepy little local theater, there is already social distancing because I'll go see I'll see a movie that came out like on Thursday. I'll see it on Sunday night, and there's 15 people in the theater. So, but still, it's like people are not going to rush. It's going to take a while.
That's the thing.
I think a while is going to be too late for a lot of industries. I think this will be transformative to us the way World War II was for our grandparents' generation.
No doubt.
I think a lot of things are going to go by the wayside. It's going to just change a whole lot of things.
And there's going to be a baby boom.
Yeah.
And a divorce boom.
That's what everyone says on every call I've been on.
And I'm not saying that from experience. I'm thrilled at how well my wife and I are getting along. It's just I can see it.
Yeah.
What about
people aren't used to spending this much time
woman
together?
Who was just about to serve divorce papers before this happened, and now you all got to be stuck in the house? That's like
it's like in the hands, like leaning forward and say, "I just need you to." Oh. The governor's got to make an announcement.
Oh, that's a Netflix movie. You guys go pitch that.
Yeah, we should totally do that.
right?
Or a TV series.
Yeah. And in 2 years, in 2 years it'll be funny. So
Yeah. You know what you can do to pass the time? Go on fanboycollectibles.com and buy something.
buy stuff. Yes.
Buy
Yes.
yourself something. Plenty of stuff up there. Pre-order. I don't think it was on pre-order last week, but life-size Baby Yoda, not being called Baby Yoda.
It wasn't there last week, but
Baby Yoda.
so now we have 2 to choose from. There's a Sideshow one and a Hot Toys. You can pick your favorite.
Yeah, you cannot get enough Baby Yodas. There are a lot of cool X-Men statues. Magneto, Psylocke, Storm, Angel, and Iceman. I always love the statues that have like clear parts. There was always that couple of different Fantastic Four with Sue Storm was like half clear and half. So the Iceman one looks cool. But they got Kotobukias and they got Pops and they got everything. Check them out, fanboycollectibles.com. I still don't know if the store's open, but give them a call. Check out their website. They got a phone number, but order online. They'll deliver it. Postal service still working. Not a problem.
A
On the
box
regular
from
center.
Fanboy collectibles on your front door will cheer up any otherwise pretty uninteresting week. So
It'll make your day or week for
that's
sure.
right.
Exactly. And
It always does. It always does for me.
It'll give your multiple Amazon boxes something to keep company.
Yeah.
Because I had
Yeah.
3 today, I think.
I have one other thing to tack onto random.
Wait. Okay, go ahead, and then I have a question.
Okay. It has now been a week, about 10 days, and no one has knocked down the Rosario Dawson rumor. I'm saying that makes it true. So.
Yeah.
Should I make that
Well,
as
I mean,
my background?
What's weird is that was out there, but and then now the Michael Biehn thing, but nobody's officially confirmed that. And then I read today that Jamie Lee Curtis might actually be cast in it.
I think this is like now the equivalent of being like on Hollywood Squares. Pretty much everyone who's
Bronson
not
Pinchot
working
is also going to
is
be
like
in it.
is going to be announced as being in this thing. No, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember though. There was something else filming in the area, and they said Jamie Lee Curtis is either in The Mandalorian or this other thing. We're not sure which one it is. She was seen in the area.
All right, my question's fine for another time. All right, are we getting into Picard? Do we want to talk Picard?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to ask my question that I hate that I had to give you a heads up on, but I did. So, in a world where this episode of Star Trek is a 10, what number do you give Picard? So
I had to read that 3 times to understand what you meant.
Todd and I have been doing this.
Dave loves his
Barry
1 to 10
never-
scales, but you need a baseline. And
Barry never
Yeah, no, it makes
understands
sense once
when
I
we do these
figured it out.
things.
Yeah.
No, I've been doing it with you long enough that I finally know how to interpret your texts when I get them.
But the 3 of us all interpret our scale questions the wrong way.
Yes.
So I'll go first, and I'll at least in my estimation of the 220 some Star Trek The Next Generation, there are several 10s. 110 to me is the best of both worlds. So
wait, that's what which part?
Yeah, you got to go part 1
I
or
like
part 2.
part 1 better.
Okay. I do too.
And I just watched them both today before we started recording. So that's a 10 to me. So with that being a 10, I give Picard an X. See how is everyone on the same page of how that works?
So you said that. Give it your number, Dave. You said best of both worlds is a 10. So what's your?
I'm still debating with this. I would say.
You want to go around? You want to think on it a minute? We all go around and say what our 10 is first?
Oh, let's do that. That's interesting. Yeah. I have several 10s, but that's one of them. Okay. Todd, what's your 10?
Yesterday's Enterprise.
I knew you'd say that.
I know. It's my go-to. It's like Balance of Terror. It's just it's pretty predictable. Yeah.
Brian, what about you?
Related, Measure of a Man.
Yes. Outstanding.
Good one.
And that's a second season episode, which not
9th
all of them are good.
Yeah.
Barry?
I'm going to go best of both worlds part 1 because I like part 1 much better than part 2. I love them both, but I like part 1
and
much
I think
better.
That's the first time they were doing 2-parters with a cliffhanger, which was great because the cliffhanger was like pretty big at the time. And it still holds up. I was like, you know how the early Borgs were like a little cheesy, obviously, but they actually look pretty good in this episode. So it did hold up. Does anyone have?
I felt like the cliffhanger was so good, and I felt like waiting all that time and the payoff of the conclusion didn't live up to the cliffhanger, and that was always my problem with Best of Both Worlds Part 2.
Yeah, the second part is pretty good.
It's good. It's just the first part is so good.
Watching it again, it's a Picard story. It's a Riker story. You've got. Everyone's sort of, you've got, everyone's got something to do. You got a new character who's sort of, Shelby's doing stuff. So it was good. Any other 10s? I'll go. Tapestry, obviously one of my favorites.
Right. Yep.
My wife's was Inner Light.
And I would also go, yeah.
Another good one.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give my number. So with Best of Both Worlds being a 10, I like it. It's uneven. I'm gonna say a 7. You take 7 of 9 out, and it's a 6.
I
Todd,
actually.
All right.
All right, I'll go.
Go ahead, go.
I agree 100%, and I vacillated between 7 and 8, and I landed on 7.
Well, let me get ready for Todd. Todd, why don't you go?
5.
Really?
Yes.
5.
Wow.
Really?
I think you'd be like a 9.
Oh my God! I thought you were gonna
5. And I'm trying to be positive.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Surprised. And you want to know
shit.
something? I only gave it a 7 because I thought you'd be mad if I went lower. I thought you were gonna really give it like a 9.
No,
I could have gone 6.
you can't do that now, Brian.
I
Where you
know.
at?
I committed
Brian?
to 7.
I was at the 5 or 6 level until the last episode, and then I'm up to a 7 or an 8. The last episode
Now-
really brought it home.
If we could take a single episode, okay, and put, I would gauge. There's probably a 7, 8 episode in there on
Mhm.
that scale, but the aggregate, I think it's very, very uneven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Very uneven.
I know they tried to do some very different things here. I love Michael Chabon as a writer, but I think he approached this kind of in the wrong direction, and it's just very slow.
I think this is an epidemic in short run series nowadays, is that
It's not
they've killed
working
episodic
as well.
television, right? Except for the Orville, which was great. They've killed episodic television, and they don't know how to write a 10-story arc.
And the thing is, O'Brien, I like that, and I'm good with that in most circumstances. I can live with that in a Marvel Netflix series, okay? But this is Trek, and you have a whole different picture in your head to start with, and it's really hard to break that mold. You're expecting something.
Discovery has exactly the same problem.
Oh, I know that, and that's
Exactly.
why, like I said,
Yeah.
in the best Discovery episodes are more episodic. Okay, the best Discovery episodes were the ones that were a kind of self-contained puzzle piece that was part of the bigger picture. And I think of the Pike episode with the moral dilemma on that planet last year, and I think of the one where the actual away mission from the first season and stuff like that, where those feel much more like Trek. This was a character study. I get that, but there was also it was both too long and too short. There were things that I felt like we didn't see that happen. It felt like some of the relationship things seemed very forced, and other things just seemed so.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
slow.
Yeah.
And
honestly, yeah, the Picard stuff is good, but
yeah,
I gotta say, we haven't had some Trek for a while, and what the Trek we've had has been very different. And if you're trying to they obviously weren't trying to bring in new fans. It was pretty complicated for what it, and went pretty deep,
Extremely
really deep.
complicated.
very deep into
So-
Trek lore
just
that
think
they
of this for
didn't
a
need
minute.
to.
This is one of the things that's most perplexing to me. Why are these people together at the end of this story? Because
Their mission's over.
their
This
mission's
is not
over.
like
There's nothing that happened that would bond these people significantly. I feel like
Yeah.
Todd, the reason that they were together at the end was because they needed to have him say engage.
this
That's
is
the
what
only
what I'm
reason.
saying is
No, but wait,
they should have had
take-
them going home, and then next season something can happen on the way home.
But you know
But-
why? If you really think of all of them, every single one of them is alone.
Oh, they're all alone and they're all
And
damaged.
that's why they're together. They
Yes.
all
No,
basically
there's no
have
question.
nowhere to go.
But I think they could have done that better.
Two
They could have done
words
a lot of stuff
that
better.
I use a lot nowadays that drives me crazy: writers' convenience.
Yeah.
So many things happen because it's convenient for the writers for it to happen that way.
Yeah.
It's like these outlandish things happen for writers' convenience.
Well, and Todd, you had said weeks ago when we first started talking about it that the writer had said or the showrunners had said that they were trying to make it more flow like a novel than a TV series. And I having heard you say that, it totally makes sense to me. There are things in there that as I'm seeing them visually going in my head, if I were reading this or listening to an audiobook, this would be so much better than seeing it in person. Like the flowers were the dumbest freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. But if I were listening to that,
and this is where when I got to the end
it,
of it, I was like, I'm not sure if the payoff was worth all of the buildup. I think there's certain things in here which I am super pleased with that I think were terrific. I really, really liked the data resolution. I thought that was
I did too.
I was fine with that.
I thought it was significant. I totally don't get the how they were this attached to Blue Skies, because that really only is rooted in that horrible movie, right? There's no other thing other than that. But I think that was done well. I think that was fine. But there was some crazy plot holes, and
this would have been better as a 2-hour movie.
Oh God, it could have. Brian,
even great 2-hour
even
movie.
2 hour and 45-minute parts. Like a 2-part or a miniseries. Much shorter duration, but there was
6
so much
episodes,
filler.
maybe. I mean,
but there were also too many characters that they brought in. They did not need the elf swordsman guy. I mean, that was so not Trek to me.
That's the stuff that went real deep. I mean, I thought I liked his character, or like what his character did. I didn't really like his character.
The backstory novel was much more interesting. It had a better story told, and by the end of it, you really cared about the Raffi character. It made perfect sense. It was a classic case of Picard being Picard and not being able to see anything other than the right thing and not considering the consequences to everything else. And it was perfect. And this is, compared to that, this is a letdown. So,
but that scene when she was going around from Rios to Rios, the computer generated versions of him, and figuring the whole thing out, like, how did she become that smart? It was like a light switch turned on, and she became a super genius.
She was always that smart. It's just she's been in a bottle or a pipe for 10 years.
It just didn't feel like there was any kind of payoff there. She just went from
the whole those sort of women, Romulan women who had that. You could have done away with all of that and made it so much more simple.
And I'm sorry.
But, Romulans hate synthetics because they caused this thing. It could have just been based on that. Didn't need to have this 1,000-year-old thing.
Could have been whatever.
You didn't need witches. Yeah.
So it was just like way too complicated.
Brian, we keep talking over you. What do you?
I was going to say to Dave's chagrin here. You could have lifted the entire Borg thread out of that, and it would have been better.
Yeah.
They added nothing to the story. What the hell was the cube even doing there at the end?
Yeah.
No.
Well, and one of the things that annoyed me most from a sort of just set decoration, that Borg cube crashed on that planet hours ago. But when they were coming in and out, that dirt and everything, that looked like it had been there for 100 years.
Okay.
It just crashed.
Yeah.
A Borg cube is roughly 100 times the size of the Great Pyramid. Okay. So in the measurements that have been, that they've given on screen, it is roughly 100 times the size of the Great Pyramid. Yet everybody can find everybody super easily inside that thing. It's like, it's that big, but there's like 3 rooms.
But there's a crack in the side of it, and the dirt
that's
just
what I'm
happened
saying.
to.
It's like,
I mean,
apparently they can't find everybody because that Romulan spy was able to hide, and no one was able to find her, even though she had no reason to be on that ship at all, other than to get kicked into the abyss.
Right, but I give a pass to her because she was just ridiculously hot.
All right, let's go back to that. So, as I predicted,
she is not dead because she fell in a pit.
Oh, she's totally not dead. The Emperor not dead. Spoilers. Two spoilers right there.
Yeah, Captain Phasma.
It's
made
really,
it down a shaft.
Yeah.
But I told you those two would fight. And the problem with that is, so 7 and 9 and Peyton List, whatever character name is, fought. It was way too short. I mean, they could have added 3 minutes to that fight.
And not even filmed particularly well, because a
No.
lot of it was obscured. And yes, no, I
That's
agree.
what I don't get. I mean,
that scene had no
these two
business being
badass
there at
girls are
all.
going to show down. I'm sorry, what?
That scene should not have been there at all. She should not have been on the ship at all. That was just
Yeah, no, and this is
Well, she was there, so
it-
they might as
okay,
well fight.
So either you do the Romulans or you do the Borg, and putting them together made no sense whatsoever. Now, if the Borg, because when we first saw the Borg cube, I thought, okay, basically this is a dead Borg cube that the Romulans are using like as a refugee site or something like that, and that kind of made sense. But that's not what it was at all. And it was like there was no real good explanation why.
I thought they were somehow going to tie in the Borg and synthetics, because the Borgs are kind of
Sure.
synthetic.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That whole, I was a Borg and then it was ripped away from me. I thought they were going to
or
tie
that
that in.
this thing on the other side of that hole was actually related to the Borg somehow. And,
Yeah.
Which we've never fully had an explanation of where they came from. And this is, like I said, there's so many things. I will say one of the things I really liked was that every single Borg who sees Picard calls him Locutus.
Well, and I was just going to say that to me is one of the reasons why they brought them in, because that was such a defining moment in Picard's
but this is also
story.
one of the things that, like,
But they didn't even run with that at all. You could
no,
have had...
they didn't. Now, okay, so here's the thing too. Here's a dude who's been turned into a Borg. He's been unturned into a Borg. He has a heart issue to begin with from being stabbed by a Nausicaan.
From Tapestry, yeah.
Right? Okay. And yet they got to come up with a new reason for him to be dying?
No, because they said that's not his heart is an artificial heart that will outlast him.
No, but what I'm saying is tie his affliction somehow into the Borg thing or something like this. But
that would have been better.
I've got an idea. How about don't give him an affliction at all? He's 90 years old. You don't
and
need
this
to
is-
put it
No,
in
but
more
you
jeopardy.
got to give him a reason to die. Spoilers, and be brought back.
You don't need to give him a reason to die, because you don't need to bring him back as a
So
freaking robot. That was stupid.
Before we get too far away, you just rewrote a better ending. Wouldn't it have been awesome if the synths were coming from that other dimension where the origin of the Borg? No, that would have all tied together. Would that have been awesome?
Exactly. And
Instead
Brian,
they
I'm
look
gonna
like the
top
things
this.
from the Avengers.
I'm going to top this. Okay, that I got any better thing. They did not need to create him a new body. Okay, this thing in his head, they needed to take Data's last neuron and implant that, and that, like Tony Stark's magnet in his chest, would keep the thing in check as long as it was in Picard's head.
I like that.
And a fragment of Data's consciousness would be accessible inside of his head.
Yeah, he would see him all the time. He could talk to him.
Here's why
time
they
is
brought
that.
the Borg in, and we're in the right. Here's the writers' room. Great news! Jerry Ryan's signed on. We have her. It's going to be a cool character. You know what would be really cool if she plugged herself in and we thought she was going to be the Borg Queen again.
Yep.
How do we get that to happen?
Yep.
You know
For
what?
30
Let's
seconds.
make it on a Borg cube.
Yeah.
That's how that happened.
Yeah.
Someone wanted to do something, and that was a cool
Yeah.
moment, but it really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
it was a
They
throwaway.
wanted to see they
None of it went
rewrote
anywhere. That was the problem.
story to do that cool moment.
She
Yeah.
didn't even. She wasn't able to save the Borgs from being ejected out into space.
She didn't do anything.
Well, and the other thing I'll say, when that Borg cube crashed, everybody inside of it would have been dead anyway.
Yeah, but you don't know that. I mean, it's like that. It could.
It may have not crashed.
That's what I'm
fast,
saying.
but-
It probably is some kind of like field to it or something like that. It's you don't really know. It could be anything. It's all unexplained science, anyways. But that was the least of the plot holes. How about Agnes saying to Dr. Sun that Bruce Maddox had always told her that he was the best at whatever code breaking or whatever it was, when the episode before she was astonished to find out that he actually existed. So when did Bruce Maddox tell her?
Well, maybe she just said that to get him to do what she needed him to do.
Why did he's a super smart dude? Why didn't he just say, "When did you ever talk to Bruce Maddox about me?"
And on Bruce Maddox, I don't understand why when they finally got back together again, there was no callback to the Measure of a Man, right? Bruce Maddox was the guy who wanted to take Data apart in Measure of a Man. But when Picard met him again, not like, oh, hey, how's it going? Haven't seen you in years.
Because I think there was like in the book, there was interaction in between, and he was supposed to have come Data was supposed to have like ultimately like become friends with him and so on and so forth. There was
right, but none of us know that. So
no, I know.
Brian's
but what I'm
right.
saying is,
we only can go by what we saw on screen.
That was all in the Bible that was given to the woman who wrote the book. So I imagine in some iteration that was going to be talked of more. I think the other thing is because they didn't have the Bruce Maddox actor. Okay, it's not the same guy.
No.
So they didn't have the actor. I think they wanted to, they didn't go as far with that as they.
I was a little upset that they went to all this trouble to get him and he'd kill him in literally 5 minutes.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I've said it a million times, and I'll say it again.
A
you shouldn't have to know all of that ancillary material to have the show that you're watching make sense.
Oh no! I'm saying those things are things that should have been included.
This show broke that rule more than any show I can imagine.
Yeah.
If you are not a Next Generation fan, you are lost on this. For sure.
And we are all Next Generation fans, but I didn't remember half that stuff.
Yeah.
This was a character. This was a character study that you couldn't follow unless you had crib notes. Okay, I mean it's again. He's had a long career, but you would not know who he was. I think we needed to see more evolution here. I think we needed to see more. I hope they go somewhere better in the next season. I really truly do. I honestly, I would be just as happy as if he just moved on to his next mission and maybe stayed with 7 of 9.
I'd rather have seen 7 of 9 doing whatever she does as sort of the freelance mercenary. I thought that was way more
the Ranger show. Yeah, where's the Ranger show?
I think the two of them, together would actually be really, really interesting because they're very, very different and they both have the Borg connection. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think like I'm looking at that ship full of people and I'm thinking, this is the current Doctor Who problem. You're going to now have to figure out something to do with all these people because it's not a starship where you're just not going to see people some episodes because they're off doing other things. It's a pretty small ship. You're going to have to write this around finding something for everybody to do. It's going to be tricky. Barry, the other thing too about this ship, once you told me it was painted like Eddie Van Halen's guitar. I could not unsee that.
Oh my God,
yeah.
It was
totally.
I totally missed that. Of course, they also kept the ship very much in the dark in the early episodes.
Yeah.
I totally missed that. And boy, it is just so right there.
That's how Eagle Moss could actually get me to buy something from them again, is if they made that ship.
So, but
yeah, like we said, it's like pizza. It's still, Star Trek is still good to watch, but there's definitely some
there's good stuff in there.
Gaping holes.
There's 2 or 3 scenes in that I think the Soji Picard breakfast scene is some of the best writing that's ever been in a Star Trek episode. That exchange between the two of them was so human and so real that, where she tells him that Data did love him, even, based on, but his saying that his bonding with Data came from both of them being incapable of expressing emotion. And it's like, yeah, a 92-year-old man could have that insight into himself. Okay. 50 some odd year old Picard couldn't. It's just, that was Michael Chabon. It was brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. There wasn't enough of that. There was too much other shit and silly pirate costumes and other kind of stuff crammed in there that, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think.
So before we go, I have a question. Okay.
I have a question too. Go ahead.
Okay. This first season versus any other Trek first season. Is there a better first season of another Trek series?
Because the first season kind of sucked.
It's not Next Generation. The first season of Next Generation is almost unwatchable.
Yeah.
original series first season is
It
way
is.
better
That's
than
what I'm
this
saying.
one.
But I'm saying, other than that,
But it's also, I mean, it's hard to judge
Discovery
something that's
first season was
20-something
probably
episodes
better.
versus
We
10.
like Discovery first season.
Yeah.
Eh,
but
we
there's
liked
one
it
of the
better
things.
than this.
All of the subsequent Trek series have weak first seasons. They do. So
That was Enterprise. I don't remember.
it
Not
was
bad.
it was
Okay.
Yeah.
Deep Space Nine is tough.
Deep Space Nine's really tough. Voyager was really tough. They all spend a lot of time explaining things. I mean, those are too episodic in some ways, because if you rewatch those, in every episode they reintroduce everybody like you didn't see the previous episode.
But you know what, Todd? One thing I will say is that those were all done under a very different way of creating television,
Completely
where
built
you were
for
writing
syndication.
one episode at a time. You weren't really, except for the later years, especially in Deep Space Nine, they started thinking about story arcs. But this was envisioned as a 10-episode arc from day one. They had their opportunity to get it right.
The only one that you could really hold up against it in that regard then is Discovery.
But that changed showrunners in the middle. That was a whole other thing.
I still think the first season
to your
Discovery is
point,
better.
every one of the Star Trek shows got better when they added a great character. 7 of 9, Worf on Deep Space Nine, Pike on Discovery. So I guess we should be looking for a new great character in second season.
That's a good problem. Is there's no chair for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I wanted them to bring
this.
Sutra with them. I liked Sutra.
So isn't she dead or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why was Raffi and 7 of 9 holding hands at the end?
You know
That
why?
was a little creepy.
Because they managed to go through the entire season without introducing a gay character, and they just had to do
Is
something.
that what they
like
did? I mean, she clearly was married to a dude, and
Yeah.
7 loved Chakotay. Where is that coming from?
Well, they're both now apparently bisexual. So box checked. We don't
I
have to ask that
agree with
question
Todd.
anymore.
They had to check a box.
Yep.
And that's just ridiculous.
And that just
I
makes
totally
me
agree. And that's
crazy.
one of the things that really bugged me in the last episode.
like
again,
you
the whole-
literally throw that in the last 30 seconds of the series.
I think, yeah, and it's, to me, that's like the whole replicated body thing. I'm just like, really? So this is just like, it's now not quite Picard?
Okay, so when you guys saw that Golem, did you think it was going to be Data or
Oh,
Picard?
absolutely. I thought they were going to replicate Data.
That's what I thought as well.
Hmm.
Not
Well,
Picard.
as soon as his head thing started flaring up, like out of nowhere, he'd been beaten up. He's really just sitting in the chair, but now he was beaten up and it hadn't flared. As soon as that flared up, I'm like, that's his body.
Okay.
And
So,
I mean, I
no,
love the
but
way
it-
it's like,
They shouldn't have done it.
well, it's going to die the normal time, and it doesn't have superpower. It's like, okay.
I'm going to say one thing positive, and then I'm going to throw one more negative thing in. Okay. I love that Will Riker showed up with that fleet. Okay. I thought that was great. Okay. I find it ridiculous that lazy that every single one of those starships was exactly the same. Okay.
Why does there need
If
to
they
be
could make freaking
140
Wolf
starships?
359, if they could make Wolf 359 with every model kit that they could find, okay, and practical models, they could have CGI'd a dozen different ships in there and thrown a Sovereign class in and thrown, a few other odd different things in there instead of them all being exactly the same ship.
Why do they need it to be 200 ships?
I totally agree.
It's been a
because
dozen.
It could
Yeah,
because
they were going
they
for
were-
scale. They
Yeah,
wanted
they
it
were
to
going
be
in
epic.
scale, but still, so show up with every random ship you've got, have a tug, have all these different things.
But everything we've ever seen, there's no way of 200 ships in the fleet all showing up at the same place at the same time. It's not possible.
And right, exactly, and that's where, like
And
I
they
said,
sure as hell wouldn't show up for this.
this is exactly like I
Okay,
said.
like guess what? We'll give you 2 ships. Go. They're not.
Yeah.
We're giving you the
and
whole
they
fleet.
wouldn't put a retired captain in charge either, but writer's convenience.
Who was busy making pizza on a
Yeah.
I also think he's a retired admiral at this point, and I think he's kind of like, I think he was probably a little still more plugged in than he was saying, but
I would get if it was 3 ships.
I
Bring
3
6
ships,
birds of
even
prey.
a dozen. This should have been maybe 15 or 20 assorted ships, and they should have come in like boom, 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 like 5, and then all of a sudden the big guns come in.
I think
And then it's like,
because they couldn't have the Enterprise. I don't know why they didn't pick the Enterprise. Why wasn't he on the Enterprise? I don't know, but they decided they didn't want to do the Enterprise. Okay, then we'll do 100 ships.
yeah, but also the same ship. It's like it seemed really. The other thing too
Right. Well, and
was,
by the way, if the Federation had that many ships at their disposal, they couldn't have, when Picard asked for a ship, they couldn't. I mean, like,
That's
if they
what I
had
was
that
saying.
many.
Admiral
But
Picard
that's the
asked
thing.
for
There
a
was
fleet,
nothing
but
pressing that
Admiral
would
Riker asked
make
for a
you
fleet.
go to this
okay,
place.
so likewise, the decimated, mostly homeless Romulan Empire has 100 and some odd ships.
Yeah.
Again, 100 and some odd identical ships. It's
Which
lazy.
looked remarkably like the Klingon, the Cylon ships from.
I will say
the
though,
whole
these
the front
had,
end of those ships.
I
looked
did
like
like
Cylon
no, but they
ships.
did look like the late Bird of Prey things. They had that kind of that had that same kind of Centurion helmet look to them, and that predates the Cylon ships. If you look, there's a shuttle and there's a couple smaller ships from Deep Space Nine that had exactly that same look, and I think Brandon Braga stole that, possibly from himself. But it's yeah. Anyways,
Okay, moving right along because
Yep.
we got to move right along.
Yep.
Let's go. We're not going to do nearly as long. What's that, Seven? You want to give me a kiss? Couldn't see it though.
Wait, do it again, and I'll screen capture it so we
Tell
have
me when
something
I'm
for
in the
Instagram.
right space.
Closer.
A little closer. Up there you go, right there.
Oh, too far. Back up.
oh,
Now you're eating her face.
Yeah,
I gotta do it again.
There you go.
Right there. Okay.
Wait, am I there? You taking a picture?
I was trying, but you keep moving.
Okay,
Go ahead, don't
for
move.
those of you playing the home game,
Okay, got it.
Dave has a background of 7 of 9 who he's now he's
Getting romantic with.
now he's getting romantic with.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Change gears a little bit.
Change gears. For All Mankind, that was on Apple Plus. We watched it a while ago, but we hadn't had a chance to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Talk about a show that was much better.
And came out of nowhere, kind of. Like we
It
were not
totally came out of nowhere.
expecting
I saw a
it. Didn't
billboard
have a lot
in
of build up
Times
to it.
Square. And I'm like, and I really felt reading the sort of 2-sentence deal on it, I thought it was going to be like a Man in High Castle, like a whole redo of thing, and totally wasn't at all.
No,
It wasn't?
totally not.
I
What?
think it was. I think they basically it's
I
totally a
meant
what
I
if
thought
thing.
it was going to be Russia's this superpower now, as opposed to the whole
Oh,
story.
I
was,
get what you're saying.
Okay.
No, I mean
The-
this is
the space
the
program
reason
continued.
the reason the space program died was apathy, and this created an environment where there could be no apathy, and I actually liked that. I thought that was kind of cool. I will tell you. See, one of the things that totally freaked me out was that they killed people who didn't die.
yeah,
Yes.
Gene Cernan and Deke Slayton died in entirely other way. It was just kind of like, this is really
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
This must be crazy.
But that was good
for
because
them.
it kept you guessing. Because you
And
couldn't
their
sit there and go,
families
well,
to
I
be,
know
like,
the real
watching this
history.
and saying,
So
be watching this and say like, oh yeah, they just killed my father or grandfather on that launch
they
pad.
did
accident.
make some people like, who was it? Kind of an asshole. Well, John Glenn, whether he was or wasn't in real life, but they they sort of
I
made
gotta
him
say,
like,
I think that was based on what I think that was probably not far from John Glenn, but
I'm looking at this picture.
yeah. So
It's funny. Sorry.
so
Yep.
I enjoyed
So-
it. I know you guys did too. I mean, to me, it was something that, the first episode, I'm like, all right, so they're just tweaking history a little bit, but then they really went
Yeah.
way off, and it was just
It show was aimed right at us. I mean, that,
yeah.
And this
people
is
that
the
grew up in
more
space
watching this
programs.
tolerations and
I might know the entire demographic for this show.
yeah, exactly.
It's yeah. But
And it's not something that I've heard normals talk about at all. I've recommended it to a few,
Yeah.
but I've not heard anybody go, "Hey, did you see this show?" Like, it's just not out
I
there.
think
And
they
it's coming
did,
back for a second season, they said. So
they
I mean,
did the
people come and
60s
watch
and the 70s very, very well.
so well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Um,
to the point where they spent a good amount of money on this thing.
yes.
They did, because nothing looked cheap or cheesy
No.
ever.
The clothes, the cars, the houses. I mean, they've definitely put their money into this thing.
Yeah. No
And
question.
did it really well.
Dave, was your single favorite moment the Corvette race? Because I got to say that was
I
awesome.
thought of Dave too when I saw that.
Yeah, I was hoping for the I can't remember her name, the blonde astronaut woman, to get her own Corvette. That's what I was waiting for.
Tracy.
Tracy,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it again this week while working in the shop, and it was even better the second time.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
especially when you can skip over the soap opera parts, which is what really bugged me in the show. It's like, enough soap opera. Let's get back to space, please. But other than that, really good. Other than a couple of loose ends at the end that bugged the crap out of me.
So
But
like what?
like okay, the Russian watches it's not Gordo, I forget which astronaut it was, watches him leave, and he looks
Edward.
back at the American space station, and then what? But there's the one girl's in there by herself. We never see the Russian again. What did he leave? I thought for sure he left something behind in the space station for her to find, whether it's a note or a bomb or what. They just completely dropped that. I mean, he looks right back at the space station, the moon station. It's like, okay, what's he gonna do? Well, nothing apparently.
I think my favorite part of it was I loved how they took the Cold War and moved it to the moon. How we had these two bases on the opposite sides of a crater, and then the whole sequence when the Russian actually knocked on the door of the American station and he brought him in, and then for a minute I thought he was killing him when he put him back in the airlock. I mean, I loved that whole sequence. Was
and the dude was clearly going crazy, and he was never a super stable guy to begin with, and I think they always made that clear that he had a short temper, and also he did, he would have got cut from the program. There's probably no question of that, but I found that very interesting. I thought all along at some point they were going to find the spot where the Americans were going to find the spot where the original Russian lunar landers were sitting with everyone in them dead.
Oh yeah, I did think that at one point.
I thought they were getting to the moon first, but because you never saw the people in the helmets.
Yeah,
I thought they were like sending people, but not being able to get them back, and that was like the big secret the Russians were keeping. Okay, but yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah, they never really talked about how. I mean, the Russians got there first and just stayed one step ahead of us pretty much the whole way.
Yeah.
And they never really showed.
It would have been more plausible if that was what was happening, and then they've got different people on Earth who were doing the parades and stuff like that. And
oh my God, that would have been great. But that would have made it. That would have really been the focus of this whole thing.
But I loved the little twisted bits of history slipped in there, like Ted Kennedy doesn't go to Chappaquiddick because of because the Russians landing, and the dates match up perfect. And then becomes president because of that. I love the Nixon, the faux Nixon conversation. Fuck you, Teddy.
Really done well. Really done well.
It's like so good.
Yeah, if you like space or if you like history or both, I mean, it's just the perfect show. I've recommended it to a few people, but not enough people have seen this.
That's my question, though.
The tech that is amazing. The spacesuits and the spacecraft.
All that stuff was perfect. It was just perfect. Really and the extrapolative tech was great, where it's like everything looked like, like not like what they had, but what they would have developed had they moved a little past that.
In the 70s, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And boy, how about the woman breaking her arm? was that incredible?
Oh, yeah.
And
That
it's
was
like,
nuts.
but also completely believable. You know, you're looking at that and it's like, this is a person who's, you know, is taking a measure of this, and this is, you know, who knows that this other guy's life is over unless something like this happens. And, you know, everything that he lives for, everything that he is, and, you know, what an incredible, incredible thing. I thought that was a great story point. I thought there were a lot of things like that they built in there that I could totally see an astronaut doing. And, you know, yeah. You know, so
I think the
characters
other
were great. I thought
the other
characters
most incredible thing to me was the failed rescue attempt.
Yeah.
That whole thing, the way that went down, that was riveting.
It was.
Yeah.
The show had a lot of things in it where you go, if that really happened, that person would never work in space again.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, but it is a television show.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. You know, they're not following orders, and they're.
But when they were out there working and that guy was tethered to the ship and it just took off, and
Oh my God.
they don't
that
even
was crazy.
they don't even talk about the fact that guy slingshotted around and just burned up in the.
Harrison. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was insane.
Until they're back
so
on Earth and they're like talking about the guy, and it's like,
Yeah. That whole sequence was ridiculous. It was so good.
yeah.
It's definitely worthwhile. It was definitely I love when there's something sort of comes out of nowhere and you're like, wow, this is really good.
And again, like I said,
coming.
I think the bar for entry for this is having some understanding of what actually happened. But there's nobody that has an interest in this that should not watch this. Okay.
I think if you like movies like The Right Stuff and Apollo 13, this is your kind of
Absolutely.
show.
But I think if you don't have an understanding of what happened, it's very hard to, you know, sort the truth from what wasn't.
But just know going in that, like, unlike Apollo 13 and The Right Stuff, this isn't a historical documentary. This
Todd, I'm going to disagree with you. I think that if you had no idea what happened, this is still a compelling television
Oh,
show.
it is a compelling thing. It's just I think
It's better if
I'd
you
be
knew what
worried about your sense of history walking away from it. I really like is it Molly Cobb? Was that her name? The Molly Cobb character?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really liked her. I met one of those women. I actually got to have dinner with her. She spoke at her school, one of the women from that program that was cut. Mm-hmm. And she was very much that lady. She was just this, like, she could have kicked my ass person.
Well, Molly Cobb was
Penny,
right?
Penny, was it?
Molly Cobb was. They give her a credit at the end of one of the episodes.
Yes, but so anyways, but Cobb was the person's they used her last name, but anyways, Dave, I gave you her book. I can't think.
Yeah, I have it downstairs.
Anyway,
yeah.
she was one of the people in that program, and it was just incredible, just absolutely incredible. And again, these women had scores comparable to the men, and in some cases exceeding the men, and it was completely a political judgment. The U.S. government decided that if women died in space, it would be harder for the American public to accept that, because, you know, we weren't that far from the Second World War. We weren't that far from Korea. Men dying was an expected thing. Women would have been completely different.
Women were not flying jets. They were not in combat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, but just like I said.
And if you do sit down and watch this and you make it all the way through, you should know there is a post-credit sequence at the end of the last episode that you need to stick around for. Yeah.
That was really cool. So
it bothers me though that last sequence is set so far in the future. None of the characters that we currently love on the show will be back as astronauts anyway.
Right. Well, though they'll be, exactly. But obviously that little girl that we spent a whole lot of time with is.
That was the one thing. It took me a long time to figure out how is any of this storyline relevant, but
she will be be in on that mission. So, yep.
Good stuff.
I also found the Warner von Braun thing interesting, because I do think 2 or 3 more years of scrutiny of him would have gone exactly the way it went there. I think that he was much more a background guy. He wasn't, and it was just, he was there in the briefings and all this kind of stuff. But once you move him to the forefront and you take journalism to the degree that it was in the early 1970s, I think his past would have come out to a degree that because none of that was fabricated. Okay. It would have come out to a degree that I think it would have been, I think that, anyways, I think that was genuine. So
I don't know. I think if a Saturn V had blown up,
yeah,
maybe that would have happened. But as long as we're winning, we're willing to pay that
Right.
price. I mean, the song that is sung there about Warner von Braun, that was a real song.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And Warner von Braun sued him, and he had to stop singing because of
Right.
it. That's how much they
I
backed
know a guy,
Braun.
years ago, I knew a guy who was actually a trustee at our school whose father was an Air Force colonel, and his job was basically, he was the handler for the Von Braun brothers. And so this guy that I knew, John, as a kid, mowed their lawns in Huntsville. And just, it was just, they were just those two German guys. And yeah. So
Cool. All right. Well, if you haven't seen it, see it. If you have seen it, let us know what you think. Love to hear about it. Okay, we're going to do show and tell.
Is that the $6 million man's boss?
It's Oscar Goldman.
Why do you have that?
That's worth a lot of money. That's much more valuable than Steve Austin.
Regular Joe's show and tell.
Oh, look, he's got a billion toys.
I think we said it's going to be Star Trek or space related. Is that the criteria?
That was the theme.
So, Todd, why don't you go? What are you showing and telling?
I'm going to go with my G.I. Joe astronaut and see if I can get the background right.
You have to keep moving him.
Yeah, I got to keep moving him.
You gotta shake him. We all know what he looks like.
We all know what he looks like. Anyways, this is my original 3-zipper suit G.I. Joe astronaut, and I can't ever take him out of the suit because I'm sure at this point it's pretty much molded in this shape. But this is, like I said, 60s vintage. It's all complete. I put these super fragile things back in the case when I took him out, but he's right there. He's a lot more Mercury astronaut looking than Apollo astronaut looking, but it's a cool figure and one of my favorite things as a kid. So we did, when I was I think in like 6th grade, I did a presentation about about John Glenn, because we had to talk about like one of our personal heroes. And so we actually had on stage, while I was reading about John Glenn, we like lowered the G.I. Joe astronaut and we did a simulated puppeteer spacewalk. And I had a kid holding up the G.I. Joe space capsule, and he's like floating or dangling from by fishing line. So anyways, I always love this. So that's my show and tell thing, and I'll post pictures of that. Brian, what do you got?
Space related, I don't know if I told you guys about this before or not, but this is my my Apollo jacket. So Adam Savage had one on his show, and when he came to visit me, we were talking about my aliens jacket, and I said, I love that Apollo jacket. He goes, well, here's the place where you can get it. It's a place in England. You can order them. You send them all your sizes, and they make motorcycle jackets. But as part of one of the projects was to make the Apollo jacket exactly out of the same fabrics, exactly the same patterns. And they got one of the astronauts' jackets to work from and made these reproductions.
Wow.
So I've got
awesome.
It came with the NASA patch, and this is the moon suit patch when I the Kickstarter to restore.
Yep. That's a great idea.
So I put since I actually paid for the Kickstarter, I put that patch on there. And on the back is that's an actual patch from the mission control in Disneyland when they did Mission to the Mars.
Oh, that's really cool.
So that's my Apollo jacket. Oh yeah.
And who makes it? What's the company?
I'll have to go look it up again. Actually, it says, might say right, Flightwear by.
Yep.
And I think there's another company called, is it Luna Replicas that makes it now
There's
too?
another company that, in fact, I wore this to a Star Trek event, and a guy stopped me and said, "Is that Flightwear?" I go, "How do you know that?" He goes, "Because we're the company that has the license. We're going to start making them now." So there's another company, US based, is going to start making them as well.
Yeah, Luna Replicas. I think that's the one Adam mentioned. He has the
Adam actually talked about that on his podcast recently.
Oh, okay. And this patch, actually related to Star Trek, was designed by Mike Locutus.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
I didn't
And
know
when-
that. I think I have that patch.
And when I met him at a Star Trek convention, Star Trek event, I had him sign the inside of my jacket.
Oh, that's super.
Oh, nice.
And he
Those are
also, by the
awesome.
way, designed all the patches for all the missions for All Mankind.
I saw
You
his
did?
name in the credits. I was wondering about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
He designed all the. In fact, I saw a brief post on Facebook about it, and I'd like to track him down and go, I want to see all those patches for all those missions all the way through Apollo 25 because I know he did them all, right?
Yep.
Because he loves that stuff. That would be great to see.
Yeah, that is cool.
All right, Barry, what do you got?
Barry,
I've got a pair of framed photos here, which I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but
Oh, nice. Yep.
turn
these
your
are.
background off.
Yeah, I got to turn the background off. Hang on 1 second. Turn background off. Choose virtual background. None. Okay. These are, I've had these for a very, very long time. It's a Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner signed pair of photos that I got from a company called the Slanted Fedora, which actually used to run Star Trek conventions.
Really?
Believe it or not. I've probably had these for 20 years now.
Those are great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
they're
My-
great photos.
Yeah. My Spock is black and white, and my Kirk is looking in the opposite direction, and they just don't go together. Those are perfect together.
Yeah, these go well together. I've actually had these hanging on the wall in my basement for years, but I took them down to show, because I don't know if I ever talked about these on the show or not, but I've had these. These are probably some of the first Star Trek autographs I've ever had. I've had them for a long time. So
Really nice.
I'll send you pictures of them.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll put them up.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, I think I've talked about almost every space thing and every Star Trek thing I have at one point in the show, but I realized I have. Well, here's just a quick thing. I made my own. Started making my own plaques. I made this for the original series.
Oh, nice. Yes. Yeah.
So this is that stuff. This is for the original series communicator pilot. But this is that stuff I got from that company. It's silver on the outside and it's etched. They actually look even better, I think, than some of those guys who are making them with the printing on it. So
Oh, interesting.
we got to make some of those. But that's not it. I bought, when I was a kid, I had the Remco phaser that had the flashlight that lit up.
Yeah.
And I bought on eBay, I bought a Remco phaser, and this is it. And it's nothing. That one. And I didn't realize. So I did eventually get the other one. This
You
is
gave
the
me
one
one of
with the
those.
flashlight. Huh?
I think you bought that twice, right? Because you gave me one of those. I have
No, I bought the Mego one that comes with the
Phaser target game.
Phaser target game.
That's right.
This
Yes.
was the
Okay, that's what
Remco
that
one.
is. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And
Different.
this was a
different end.
flashlight, and it beeped and stuff. But I bought this thinking it wasn't, and for the life of me, I did not know what this is. What I think this is, and it is made by Remco. Remco came out with
I think that's a utility belt.
Remember they made,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's from the
But
utility belt.
most of the utility belts, little phasers, shot those tracer discs. This one doesn't. This just
I
clicks.
had that one, Dave, and that's exactly what it just clicks.
Huh.
I didn't really know. I wish I had but I think those utility belts are hard to find. I know they make the Batman one that's very expensive.
Yep.
They made, they even made a Space 1999 one. They made a whole bunch of them. But
And you know what's interesting too? If you look at the Star Trek logo on that, you know what that's the Star Trek logo from?
The Golden Comics.
The
Yeah.
Gold Key Comics. It's just so weird that they use that in all the products, whether that was a licensing thing or what it was. But yeah,
well, Remco got the license super early on, even in the 60s.
yeah.
And they put it on all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with the show, which was crazy.
Love that helmet with the friggin' siren on top of it.
With the thing on it, yeah.
You guys have seen the guy that did the full size one for the grown up, right? He
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
Oh, really?
built his own adult size
So,
siren helmet.
yeah. I guess this is part of the utility belt. I have to try to track down the whole thing because I really, for the life of me, didn't know what it was.
Barry reminded me. I've got a bonus Star Trek thing here that I just recently got. And this is the captain's chair. I
Oh,
had-
nice.
I had Shatner sign it.
Oh,
Ah,
nice.
nice.
And it was at the last event at Ticonderoga, and he was sitting in the captain's chair when I showed it to him, and I said, sign it. I went, sign it right here, and with the pen, and I drew that line on it by accident.
Oh my God.
Oh, no,
I was
what am I
wondering,
gonna do?
I've never seen him underline his signature before.
No, I drew the line and sign it here, and I went, oh my God. He goes, don't worry about it. I'll just sign above it. And he signed it. It was fine.
That's
so
funny.
Did he know what it was?
I've thought about having him sign because I have that chair too,
Yeah.
and I thought about having him sign it the last time we went to see him.
Anything you could put in front of him. Actually, you know what? I did put something in front of him that he had never signed before. I've mentioned this to you guys before. There's a movie he was in that I loved as a kid called The Sole Survivor. It's about a B-25 that crashes in the desert.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Everyone's on as a ghost. He's in that with Richard Basehart. And I actually got a press kit photo from that movie and had him sign it and asked him if he remembered working on that movie. And I said, Richard Basehart in the desert. He goes, oh, yeah, the terrible conditions. It was cold and sand got everywhere.
Well, Dave definitely put something in front of him that he's never signed before because he couldn't even remember what it was.
That was the pad.
The pad.
Oh, okay, there you
He
go.
didn't know what it was.
He's probably he signed a number of these chairs. I've seen these chairs signed before.
Yeah.
Sure. He just hadn't seen or held one of those pads in 50 years, Dave, so he didn't remember what it was.
Which is, I guess, because no one's made
honestly,
them too much.
The pad is in front of you, and Yeoman Rand is in front of you. What are you paying attention to?
Yeah.
Okay. Particularly if you're William Shatner in 1966. Okay. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Okie dokie. So that's show and tell. Let us know about those shows. Next week, Val Kilmer. If you want to watch along with us and comment, we'll talk about that. We're going deep here.
I'm going to have to track those movies down. I don't have all of them.
Yep.
We'll figure that out.
Yes.
Any last thoughts before we jump out of here?
Yeah, I just thank Brian for joining us. It's been too long. We definitely needed to have you back on. So
anytime, guys. I really enjoy this. It's talking to like-minded
nice
people.
To talk to you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. And thanks for listening.
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.